Hello, my friends. Chris Cookin' Nashville here. Calories? Let's talk about it. So, quick health vlog update for you guys. Nothing has really changed. I'm feeling good. My weight is just staying pretty stable. I'm thinking I'm going to maybe incorporate a little bit more intentional fasting. A lot of days I only eat one meal a day, but there have been times lately I've been eating more like in the morning and then also eating in the afternoon. I might try to step that up and just push a little bit for that one meal a day and try to cut back on, just the extras and the little things like that. Just kind of see how I feel. So not too worried about it, but all is well. I'm stretching. I'm doing my different things for my health challenge this month. All is well. But I do have, I think, an interesting topic that got brought up on my channel with a commenter. So I thought, let's talk about it. Calories in versus calories out. So an interesting comment popped up on one of my videos, and it was from someone who definitely does not watch my channel, and for the most part I don't think is involved in the keto or carnivore community, and they said, it all comes down to calories in, calories out, always will. I kind of laughed about that. I understand that there are some people who still track their calories when it comes to keto and carnivore and those kinds of things, and listen, if that works for you and that makes you happy, I think that's totally fine. But it did bring up a really good point of this debate about calories in versus calories out and why calorie counting doesn't work, in my opinion. Now, I'm no doctor, so I'm not here to give any medical advice or tell you what you should do, but I am here to tell you what it is I do, why I do that, and why I personally think counting calories is a waste of time. So first of all, to understand this whole scenario of calories in and calories out, we need to understand what a calorie is. Now, I didn't understand what this was. I had heard the term, but I had no idea how we arrived there until I was in high school and I was doing chemistry experiments and doing these kinds of things in school, and I finally learned what a calorie was. And then I really didn't think that much more about it, truthfully, until I discovered keto and carnivore, and I heard the doctors that are on this whole space talking about calories and why they do or why they don't matter and what they really are. So very briefly, let's just talk about a calorie. A calorie is the amount of energy that it takes in a bomb calorimeter to heat water 1 degree Celsius higher at sea level. Now, if you want to get into all of the measurements of exactly how that's all done, you can go read all of the research. You can Google it. There's all sorts of experiments and things that are out there that are being discussed in research papers and whatever else. You can dive as deep as you want to in that. But that's essentially what a calorie is. So a calorie is the measurement of energy that is coming out of a food based on the ability that it has while burning to heat a particular amount of water 1 degree Celsius. So if that's what a calorie is, then we need to discuss how that applies to the human body, because as we eat food, if we're going to use calories as a way to understand what the food is doing to us, we need to figure out how that particular measurement of that food's energy relates to what our body is doing. So what does food actually do in our body? Food goes through a process where we, of course, chew it and break it down, and it mixes with our saliva, and there's different enzymes within the saliva that begins breaking it down, goes into our stomach, and then our stomach acid further breaks it down. The enzymes cause a reaction in the food. It's a biochemical reaction that breaks the large particles of food down into smaller particles that can be absorbed by our cells and then used for our cells to be able to do whatever it is those cells need to do based on what kind of cell in your body it is. So basically, the process of eating and digesting food is a biochemical reaction that allows us to absorb the nutrition and the various components within that food so that we can build cells, perform functions within our body, within our cells, etc. So my question becomes, how does a calorie connect with that? Because essentially what we've now decided is that calories are based on a thermodynamic reaction being heat related and energy transfer from one thing to another in the form of heat. But we also just discussed that our cells rely on biochemical reactions, which breaks down the components of something into something else that is then used on a biochemical level to cause certain reactions and certain things to happen within inside of the cell. Now, I'm no scientist or doctor, so I can't go into all of the details of exactly how all of this works and what all the terminology is, because There are far smarter people in that particular world than me who can explain it much better than I can, and I just trust their research and their understanding of it so that I don't have to go get a degree in either physiology or biophysiology or chemistry or anything else of that nature. But on a basic level, even a redneck country boy like me can understand that heat and biochemical reactions, that's two different things. Thermodynamics and biochemistry are not the same thing. Now, they both have their value in understanding something, but that's not the same thing. So what's actually happening? This comes down to the reason that I think counting calories is kind of silly. Our body is not a steam engine. We are not putting food into our stomach where we have a little furnace that lights that food on fire, creates heat, and then utilizes that heat to put out the various actions that our body needs on a daily basis. Our cells are not running like little miniature steam engines with little tiny fireplaces on the inside. Our cells and our body and all of the energy contained within all of our cells and the ability for our cells to do the things they need to do and to rebuild, repair themselves, everything it is they have to do is all based on biochemical reactions, not thermodynamics. This also makes things a lot harder for us to understand from a calorie perspective because a bomb calorimeter is an oxygen-filled container that is surrounded by water and it's a completely closed system, whereas our body is an open system, meaning that even if you tried to measure what goes on within our body in terms of thermodynamics, you would be unable to do that accurately because our body is interacting with the world around us, the things we sit on, the air that we move through. Everything about our body from a thermodynamic standpoint is an open system that is in contact with the world outside. We further complicate this by the fact that when we eat food that is hot, or we drink liquids that are cold or hot, or whatever it is we do, we're also affecting the thermodynamic output of our body by doing that. So that right there is one really good example of many that I think I could list of why counting calories doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But on a more anecdotal level, there's also some other things to consider. First of all, for the last year plus a couple of months, I've been eating a carnivore diet, and that is all based on the concept of biochemical reactions, and more specifically, the biochemical reactions effect on the hormones within my body. Now, if I was to use the count your calories in and your calories out method of trying to lose weight and trying to get my health back, there's a couple of things that would happen. First of all, I wouldn't be able to rely on any kind of a conclusion about calorie counting, seeing as how for the last year plus that I've been doing this on a regular basis, I'm eating anywhere from 2,500 to 3,500 calories per day, depending on what I'm eating and how I'm eating. But the thing is, I've lost 130 pounds doing what it is I'm doing. And according to all of the calorie calculations that a health app would give me, or anyone's best advice for me to lose weight would be giving me, I'm actually overshooting my calories on a daily basis with my food intake by 500 to 1,500 calories, depending on the day and how much I'm eating. Now, I'm not going to the gym working out hours and hours and hours at a time. I'm just living my normal life. I'm going to work. I walk a little bit around when I'm doing my stuff at work. I go home. I try to sleep normally. I try to drink plenty of water when I'm thirsty. I just do all of the typical things that anybody else is doing in a normal day. I'm not killing myself to burn extra calories, and yet, even though I'm overshooting my calorie count according to all of the numbers and calculations would say that I should be doing, I'm still losing weight. So if it's nothing more than calories in and calories out, I should be gaining weight. Now, I'm not saying that there's no benefit to you counting calories if you want to do that. That is completely up to you. If it is purely calories in, calories out, and there's nothing else in this situation, which is exactly what this commenter on my video said, then how do you explain that I'm overshooting my calorie count on a daily basis by 500, 1,000, sometimes even 1,500 calories, and I'm still losing weight? That right there is enough for me to say this is a more complex issue than calories in, calories out, which means counting calories is not the answer. I don't know that I can tell you exactly what the right answer is because, again, I don't understand all of the science well enough to feel like I'm an authority on this subject, but I do know that counting calories doesn't seem to make any sense to me. So there's the issue of me losing weight, but let's talk about some of the other issues I also have with counting calories. For one, the inaccuracy of calories. Do you know how difficult it is to actually estimate the amount of calories within a food? The FDA actually allows food companies to be up to 20% in error based on the actual calorie count of their food and what the label says. So if the label says that there are 1,000 calories in a particular container of some kind of food, there could be as much as 20% more. That means there could be 1,200 calories in that. So if I'm supposed to be getting 2,000 calories a day, but I accidentally get 2,400 because of my inaccuracy in counting calories, that seems like a bit of an issue. If everything is purely just calories in, calories out, well, I can't rely on food labels and I can't rely on the calculations of anything online. All of those things are inaccurate. It's also extremely difficult to take something like a whole food, like a fruit or a vegetable or some kind of a meat or anything like that, and figure out exactly how many calories are in it. All of this stuff is organic. These things are variable in their calorie count because they are variable in their sugar content and their protein content and their fat content from one to the other, not just across one type of meat to another or one species of a fruit to another or whatever. I'm talking from one apple to another, from one steak to another. Even if they weigh the exact same amount, they can still have varying degrees of all of the different ingredients. So there's no real way to consistently estimate your calorie intake on a daily basis, no matter how hard you try. So again, I'm not saying that calorie counting for you may not be a good tool that is helpful to you. Perhaps it is. But to me, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense if I'm trying to count the calories in my food, if I can't get any more accurate of an actual read than that. So the other thing that really confuses me about this whole calories in, calories out argument is the concept of your hormones. The medical community talks about calories in, calories out, and the nutrition community definitely pushes calories in, calories out, and everyone says you should be counting your calories. At the exact same time, the same people will tell you that if you have a thyroid issue because of a hormone problem or some kind of imbalance in your body with your hormones anywhere, you might not be able to lose weight regardless of how low you cut your calories. Also, if you cut your calories so low that you put your body into starvation mode, you won't be able to lose weight that way either. But wait a minute, I thought it was just calories in versus calories out. So if calories in, calories out doesn't hold true because your hormones are out of whack, why does calories in, calories out hold true in any other situation? If calories in, calories out is such a simple concept that all we have to do is count our calories in and make sure we burn more calories than that on the way out, it shouldn't matter what's going on in our body because, well, it's just calories in, calories out. If there's less calories coming in than there are going out, your body has to burn the fat and lose the weight, right? Well, it seems to me that the answer is actually a little bit more complex than that. And although you may be able to cut your calories and burn fat temporarily, once your body starts to realize what's going on and the hormones kick in and the biochemical reactions swing too far in a different direction, it seems like your body shuts that down because calories in, calories out is not what it was doing anyway. And here's the other thing, your body, it doesn't know what a calorie is. It doesn't have any way of calculating how many calories of food you're eating and then taking the extras and turning them into something. We've already talked about the fact our body doesn't work like a thermodynamic processing unit, something like a stove and a steam engine. So what happens to all of the extra calories? Are they just sitting there floating around and suddenly they turn into a fat cell? I think the real answer is a little bit more complicated than that. So here's to me what seems to make the most sense. Based on the doctors that I have listened to and the science as I understand it, this is what I think happens. You eat food of various kinds, and depending on the chemical reactions that that food causes in your body and in your cells, sometimes your cells rebuild important pieces. Sometimes your cells use things to create the energy necessary for you to function. And sometimes those chemical reactions turn into a fat cell and it gets stored away. So what's the difference in which one of those things is happening? Well, as best I can understand it, the difference is what kind of chemical reaction are you creating based on what is in the food you just ate. Weight loss is very much affected by your hormones. How would your weight be so affected by your hormones unless the hormonal chemical reactions within your body were the key to this the entire time? Insulin, which gets spiked and released when you eat a whole bunch of carbohydrates, is a hormone. Specifically, it's a growth hormone, and it causes you to gain a lot of weight. When you spike your insulin over and over and over, and those carbs have to be burned, guess what? You have all of this extra stuff with all of these biochemical reactions going on, and it's turning things into fat cells because your body can't process all of that stuff as fast as it needs to. So what I'm saying here is, if calorie counting is working for you, you're losing weight, you're feeling good, that's totally fine. I think whatever it is that is working for you, that makes you feel your best, is fine. It's your life, it's your body, and it's your health. You need to make the best decision you can for you. But I think it's also important to understand that the whole calories in, calories out mantra hasn't been helping people for the last 75 to 100 years. Why do we think it's going to start helping them all of a sudden now? And more importantly, when we look really logically and scientifically at it, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So why do we use it to shove it down other people's throats, to tell them, here's why you're fat, here's why you're sick, here's why you're struggling? The human condition is a much more complex process than to say calories in, calories out, and if you're fat, it's because you eat too much and don't have any self-control. And unfortunately, that's what this comment and this argument tends to turn into. And usually it's used by people who are thinner as a way to look down on people who are heavier. Just some food for thought today. I hope that this is helpful for you guys to consider maybe why calories in and calories out doesn't work. And if you're more interested in this, make sure to go check out some people online. There's some great doctors in the space, especially Dr. Barry. And although there are some ways that calorie counting may be helpful for people, it's not the whole weight loss is nothing more than calories in, calories out, which is what has been told to us for so long. There's a lot more complexity to it. So go listen to some of the doctors, do the research on scientifically and medically why this may or may not help you, so that you can make a more informed decision. And more importantly, if you have the ability to encourage somebody else to be healthy, please don't shove the calories in, calories out mantra down their throat and tell them that if they're overweight or if they're sick or if they're struggling, that it's just all their fault because it's calories in, calories out, and you need to control yourself, because unfortunately, that's what this has turned into in our society. And there's a lot of struggling people that can't figure out what is wrong with them, because no matter what they do, they don't lose weight. That's why this low carb revolution is so important to me, because I was one of those people and it didn't seem like I had any control. And when I finally realized it wasn't about counting my calories, it was about understanding those biochemical reactions and cutting the carbohydrates out of my diet, I started to lose weight and I started to feel a lot better. And I've lost 130 plus pounds doing this, and I plan to lose a whole lot more. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this is helpful. I'm getting ready to do some really cool stuff on the channel, so make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Like the video, tell your friends that I'm here, and go out and do something really great for yourself today and just make the world a better place. Thank you for being here. This is Chris Cookin' Nashville. Eat your meat, love your life. Don't worry about those calories maybe. I'll see you guys in the kitchen for my next recipe.